Greetings from New York. I do hope you're well. We're hot and muggy here, but that's what summer is, and I hope that you're not too cold in Sydney and Melbourne. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I'm going to try to keep it under 10 minutes, but hopefully provide ample explanation of my main purpose for this video. I have in fact 3 questions for you, but to contextualize those questions a little, I'd like to just remind you of two points and then give you some little bit of background on some information about an event that took place here just about 10 days ago. As you know, I am working on my doctoral program, and for my dissertation I need to do a research project. And I have chosen, as I think I mentioned to at least some of you when I was in Australia earlier this year, that I have chosen to do my dissertation project in Australia as one of my ways to kind of get me to be more active there. We're all practical human beings to some extent. When that's combined with my fairly recent assignment as the Boon Bon Wong of Australia, or in more generic terms, the chair of the Peace Council of Australia, then perhaps you can start and get the picture of why why I've titled my email and I'm looking at this video as one of the ways that I can invite you to be part of an ad hoc working group on the formation of the Australian Peace Council. Now, I think you'll begin to see that this is not a work that I would consider as something to be done overnight. I believe it can be done, and it can be done in ways that can create a quite potent group of people. I would not bother with the energy that it would take unless forming something like that can genuinely provide a service to the Australian nation and community as a whole. So therefore this is not a quick fix type of a project. So there are those 2 things, my dissertation project and choosing it to be in Australia, and meshing that with my work as the chair of the Peace Council of Australia. A Peace Council which doesn't exist, but as we begin to work on this, have this ad hoc working group, it can begin to give us, as we discuss, as we look at the possibilities, as we look at the problems, as we consider even, does Australia really need an Australian Peace Council? Or what should that Peace Council be? So there's many questions associated with that, but that is precisely why I do want to form a working group on this that we can then discuss very carefully and realistically and inspirationally, a Peace Council for Australia. So that will mean, connecting in with all of the work that is being done already in UPF, the work that's being done with Women's Federation, the work that's being done with the Family Federation. And that's not to disregard any of that, but in fact, hopefully this specific piece can find a way to tie some of these elements together in another way. And hopefully, as we pursue this, what I can bring into this is a little piece of my experience, that the number of years of experience that I've had around the United Nations. Now, very quickly, that brings me to a report that I would like to give, just again to give you the backdrop for those 3 questions that I will get to very shortly. So, about 10 days ago, I, along with a couple of my colleagues in the Alliance of NGOs on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, it's a group of international NGOs that have consultative status with ECOSOC, and we work together on issues that are under the umbrella of the UN Office of Drugs and Crime, UNODC. Now, in one of the main pillars of that work under UNODC is terrorism or counterterrorism. Of course, there's drugs, there's crime, money laundering, corruption, all of the issues, human rights issues come in, all kinds of issues under there. But the focus of this particular forum that we pulled together 10 days ago was countering terrorism. And for that, we had 2 main speakers. And the dynamic of it, the topic was countering terrorism. We had one speaker who came from the Security Council's Counterterrorism Committee. He was on the Secretariat side, not a diplomat. Most of the committee is made up of diplomats, but the Secretariat side provides the expertise and pulls it all together so that the diplomats can sit around and talk knowledgeably and address the issues that are being placed before them. So we had the expert from the Counterterrorism Committee. We also then brought in an experienced interreligionist, you could say, or religionist, Dr. Frank Kaufman. So what this did, and the specific question that I asked him was, can religions help counterterrorism? So we're having this conversation with people from the UN system, diplomats and other NGOs, and some of the people there were at the highest levels of the United Nations in counterterrorism issues. The other person, he was not a speaker, but he was present. He did speak, and I met with him last Friday in a preliminary discussions to consider moving forward this kind of discussion, this kind of work, collaboratively, carefully, and collaboratively with him as we go forward. So the point there is that based on my experiences at the United Nations, I am confident that with the vision that we have, then we take the time to add in our experience, our expertise, our knowledge of what is happening on the ground and what is needed, our research that we have to do to better understand the circumstances, teach ourselves to upgrade our understanding, whatever we require to be able to do this work adequately. But I'm nevertheless confident that we can work at the highest levels in Australia, in addition to working in some of the very delicate and yet very important areas of the United Nations. This kind of work I do not advertise a lot because it's not the kind of work that needs to be spread around the world. The whole point of this is it has to be done carefully, but when the objective is to influence thinking and help change the conversation, then the quiet, small, careful conversations at the beginning stages when things are very delicate is what is important, what is needed, and then we can take things beyond that stage. So that's the UN side, but this, I think you can see that that's where some of my confidence comes, that we can work together to create the right kind of approach, the right kind of environment, gradually find the right kind of people as we elevate our own understanding of the circumstances that we need to work in, that we can do something significant in Australia as well. I have complete confidence in that if we can work together. So that brings me to my three main questions, and I've got about a minute and a half to do this, and then I want to end. Number one, would you be so kind? Would you be inspired? Would you be excited? Would you be curious to consider working in the ad hoc working group on the Peace Council? What that will mean initially would be two things. Number one, if you would be so kind as to answer the survey, there's a link to that just below this video. It will take you about 10 minutes. It could take you longer if you want to add in some written responses that add a lot, but we'll have time for additional opportunities in the future. And even if you don't think you are interested in working on the working group at this time, please do consider doing that survey for me. I would greatly appreciate that. And the other point is to make time for about a 1-hour online meeting every 2 weeks for about 3 or 4 weeks, and that would start in about 2 weeks, about a week or 2 weeks time. Anyway, I do want to wrap this up under 10 minutes. I've got 30 seconds left, so I just want to thank you again. If you cannot make it onto this working group, if your schedule is just too full, I understand, not a problem at all. But please consider being part of the working group. Please do, if you would be so kind, finish the survey, do the survey for me. And even if you don't do anything else, and third, consider joining us for these working meetings. Thank you.